Welcome everybody to another episode of Joe's Mental Health Awareness with Jennifer A. Whitaker. This show is a part of the World of Ability Podcast Network. And special thanks to Marcus Hart of Transforming Media, Jay Strong of the Disability Channel, and Zach Clayton of the PEC Channel for allowing us to have this on their platform. So, John, I'm going to pass over to you. Get started.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Wherever you found us, including those of you that are right now on LinkedIn or social media, maybe even on Clubhouse, to join us today. We welcome you to join in on the discussion and to take part in it. This particular show is JAWS Mental Health Awareness. For those of you who don't know me, have you heard me do it like normally?
Who did you work for?
Until just now. Were you hearing me until?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. My thing sounds muted. Welcome, everybody. And for those who don't know me, I am the host and author here of this podcast, but I started this one, the JAWS Mental Health Awareness, because of the fact that I personally, yes, I'm successful in what I do, but I'm also someone who struggles with mental health. And I want to, just like I do in some of my books, I want to help others who have any kind of mental illness, or even if it's something that affects the mood and stuff like that, but is neurological, like my high function autism. There's various things related to the brain that cause many of us to have a lot of hardships, and it to be hard to do even the basic things of, in some cases, even taking a shower because we're not motivated to do that. Like with my case in depression, or things related to my Asperger's, which is a high function autism. So stuff like autism, or like when I have my seizures related to my epilepsy, those are neurological, or in other words, physical illnesses in the brain. Is physically wrong with the brain, unlike mental illnesses, chemical, but it's quote physical. I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense, but there are some things in mental illnesses that are not chemical, like one called situational depression. Well, my brain's not changing, not the chemistry, not the physiology, not the neurology, nothing about it is changing besides my perception, which is the way I perceive information or my reaction. And in my case, that situational depression is because my dad's in process of dying. So I'm slowly losing him to two different types of cancer. And situations like that are normal situational depressions. Any of us who lose somebody we love, even if it's say they get Alzheimer's and it's the whole time they're declining until they eventually go, that entire however many years or months, we're in a constant grief and loss. And even then, you spend so many years or months grieving and slowly losing them, you're going to even hit a harder time when they actually go. And there's not even a body there to even believe to be that somebody that meant so much to you at points, or maybe even to the point of their death. But just to say, there is some sense of normalcy in having what we call situational depression, even if you're like me, where a psychiatrist puts you on an antidepressant to help carry you through that journey. It's not mental illness in the sense that you're not permanently and always or you're not permanently or always suffering of this condition. It could be just a situation that once something, whatever's the situation you're going through, evolves and something better in life comes about, that then you're no longer depressed. Then you probably wouldn't need an antidepressant if you even were on one to get you through that season, unless there's then another death. Unless there's another death in the family or something else that just sparks the whole thing again. But even when we're dealing with that, a lot of stuff talk about involving mental health, even those that are situational and are not necessarily from being mentally ill, with mental illness being something that's permanent. And something interesting I found, for those of you who know me, you may have heard that I have a vagal nerve stimulator device. It's kind of like a pacemaker for those of you that know those, where it's a physical device that's planted in the chest and then sends stimulations to another part of the body. Well, with a pacemaker, the stimulations are sent to the heart. And it's the heartbeat of maybe someone's had a heart attack, but the heart stopped, somehow stimulate to cause a return, stimulating and not have another heart attack. But there's different reasons for that. But very similarly, the vagus nerve stimulator stimulates up here to the vagal nerve, which is the main nerve that connects the whole body, brain to the rest of the body and all, including digestive and etc. And that vagal nerve, which is give or take somewhere around here, when it stimulates this particular VNS or vagal nerve stimulator device, it's intended to go to the brain to cause normal activity in the brain. That was originally, back in the late 1990s or the year 2000, was originally found and by 2003 FDA approved for treating epilepsy alone. It was something that people were able to get through health insurance paying, covered or approved for it. So, hey, we're getting it for the purpose of epilepsy. They exhausted medications. They eliminated that, so they cannot control their condition with just medications. So then they fall back on the VNS, which has been found over years that it's epilepsy. Often it's great used together with medication, but not as much success with being independent, so people don't have to be on medication. And then push forward 20 years. In the last, okay, so right now, this is February 27th, 2023. In the last so many years since I last one done in December of 2019, or maybe it was August of 2019, but it was in the fall season. Since then, now the vagal nerve stimulator is approved to treat anxiety and depression, and some cases of bipolar, depending upon which type, and certain other things that you could talk to a psychiatrist about. And I have to say, when I went from what we know was some point in the year 2022 that my vagal nerve stimulator died. I don't know why. When I spent all of 2020, even before the pandemic, all the way through, going through all these different tests that led up to my brain, that they stopped monitoring my vagal nerve stimulator that year because they're so focused on getting me to the point of brain surgery, knowing that the stimulator, the vagal nerve stimulator, and my medications together did not control my seizures. I was actually considered one of the worst 30 epileptics in the country at the time. And that's why I landed at the point of brain surgery, as you know, because that's generally life-threatening and deadly. It's dangerous. You don't go to that when you have other options. But anyways, to say, so they stopped checking it, my device, and they stopped checking the battery long enough that in some point of 2022, I apparently had burnt out. They found in November of 2022 that my battery was dead. I no longer had a working vagal nerve stimulator. And I remember the intern that was working under my epileptologist went into quick emergency reaction. He was in a panic. He's like, Dr. Latu, this is urgent because, and then Jennifer A. Whitaker is now without a vagal nerve stimulator. How quick can we react to get her in surgery? Well, but then there comes Dr. Latu, my actual epileptologist, coming in. And we find out that I'm free without even having a 3-day ECG to confirm that before leading up to January 30th when I had the surgery. And what's going on is why I have not been here on the show since sometime in December. In addition to the fact that I lost an aunt in the third week of January, she passed away from ovarian cancer after fighting ovarian cancer for many years, and just they were never able to 100% cure her of it. But I made it through January 30th. I was away from here, but I was struggling mentally with depression more than anything, a little bit of anxiety and some other stuff going on. And I had talked to my therapist, my mental health therapist, at different points, at certain points, seeing her 3 to 5 times a week. And she was able to say that the summertime of 22 was the last time she actually saw my mood stable. Me actually being my normal giggly, quirky, bubbly personality. That to say, I think that's the point where my vagal nerve started working, my vagal nerve stimulator started working. Because after January 30th, I found that my mood struggled because I couldn't work. I couldn't do what I love. I couldn't go to the gym and work out and all these other things I love to spend my time doing. But even though I couldn't do those, and I felt like I was struggling, I had plenty of other activities I knew I could do. And I actually filled my schedule with all these other things that were like writing my books, creating more podcasts, meeting more people, expanding my networking group, coming up with creative ideas for my next books, or writing on ones I've already started. And then there's stuff related to my social, where I started seeing different friends once a month and going to places where I can make new friends, which I did as of this past Friday. When you may have seen on another show where it was Bill Walters we were interviewing. Well, even when we were on that show, I was at this coffee shop I've just discovered in the last, give or take, 2 to 3 weeks, and started going. They already see me as a VF enough. But Friday when I was there, after we did the show you saw on Friday, I made a new friend. And now this new friend wants to have lunch with me every week. Whereas I have a different best friend for I don't know how many months, and maybe we've every Friday had breakfast together. So I'm expanding my social network, even if it's only just friends and it's not business connections, which I actually did both. But that's how I coped with not being able to work. I found resources, I found entertainment, I found activities. I did stuff that relieves stress, like my writing, which is why I even became an author, starting what was unofficially when I was in 4th grade, that I started writing books. And many of y'all know this one over here is my bestseller that I wrote from age 16 until 21 and didn't publish until age 22. It's now my bestseller on Amazon. However, that's how young I was when I became an actual professional author as far as age 16, even though I actually started writing, finding a joy in that being my hobby and something I even would get friends together to do. One drew the pictures, another made the cover, and then I did the writing. And we had a 2-piece paper storybook. And it really wasn't a book because the story was 1 or 2 sentences long. What do you expect from 4th graders? Anyway, so that goes back to then again that my writing is a coping skill, even though I turned it into a career. So I spent all this time while I was in the 3 to 4 week recovery period. Yes, I was struggling with my emotions, but I noticed not nearly as much as I did before having the vagal nerve stimulator. So I did my research, and I go to find out that the vagal nerve stimulator is now FDA approved for depression and anxiety. In some cases of bipolar, depending upon your type and what triggers your episodes and which direction you struggle with going more, the up or the down, depression or mania. And there's now research where the vagal nerve stimulator is being investigated and researched on for other mental health illnesses and possibly other things like migraines that are all linked to the brain not working correctly, whether it's neurological like migraines and epilepsy, or it's psychological or mental health like the few I've named. But now they're trying to check out PTSD and some other stuff to see if it can be also managed by the vagal nerve stimulator. So this is great news for many of us that struggle with our various mental illnesses. Does anyone have any questions right
now? Mental health is a
What'd you say?
I think mental health is a very serious and very important topic that shouldn't necessarily be taken lightly.
True. Just I guess my journey has shown that I think that there is a new resource for controlling our different conditions for those of us who maybe can't function with medication alone, without having our different episodes or at least being in the extremes. And it's good news to many because there's research going on for those who may not have the 3 conditions I named, but have others that the research is going on to try to see if it could help, like PTSD and all that. Have you heard of the device? Besides me?
I think I've heard of the nerve, but I don't know necessarily about the device. But I'm not sure I'm necessarily surprised that there is one.
You mean because of today's modern technology that there's pretty much everything now?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it exists in the universe, it exists on this planet. If it's not here, it's somewhere else overseas that has discovered it already and is ahead of us. Remember how Tesla was competing with somebody else in the whole electric car thing?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anybody on Clubhouse? Pat, are you there?
She's not on stage with. Oh, here we go. See if I can reach her. There we go.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Hey, Pat. Good to hear you.
Good to hear you.
What do you have to say about what I just presented?
I think it's wonderful that there's a device that can definitely help. The technology just needs to keep improving and improving.
What do you think about it giving hope to people who may be depressed, but medication's not working for, and it can be a source of hope?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we always need to look for multiple avenues to help people who are struggling.
Definitely.
You know, some people just, they do not want to take medication, and other people, they do. So we need to find solutions for those people. And I'm glad to hear that the FDA, approved it.
Yeah, it was like you may have heard about the 3 conditions it's FDA approved, and then there's the research going on to try to expand the approval to more things related to the brain.
Good. That's a positive step then.
Are we losing her, Emily?
Possibly. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thought we were losing you for a minute there.
Okay. we heard it breaking up. We lost you here, bits and pieces, like in how technology is sometimes.
Uh-oh.
We hear you now.
Is it possible for someone to use a combination of the vagal nerve stimulator and medicine? Is that possible?
Absolutely. You know one person that does.
Yes, I do. So what is the success rate of the vagal nerve stimulator?
So I don't really know the numbers, but I can tell you that they vary based on the condition. It's just that I know that that epilepsy was the very first that was approved for, and that was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And like I said, that I knew about 2002 and 2003, it was FDA approved for epilepsy only. And then it was sometime in the last 5 years maybe that it became FDA approved for the few mental illnesses that now is able to be used to treat. So epilepsy was very far ahead of the mental illness side of it as far as uses.
I had never really known that until your books. That was the vagal nerve stimulator was for people with epilepsy. At the same time, I didn't know anyone with epilepsy, so it's not like it would have come across in my everyday reading.
Right. Well, then that says that we're serving a purpose by speaking about it then, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because how many more people, could have epilepsy and not know about that device, so that's why they don't talk to their doctor about it. Or maybe even some go through like what I did at one point where I feel like I should just give up because I failed all these medications and I failed all these other things, including the vagal nerve stimulator at one point. I even got fixed my mental illnesses and my epilepsy being so severe. I got, well, there's no point in even living. I'm gonna kill myself and get myself out of this day more. But then that goes back to the mental illness side and how it can have impact that if we have different neurological stuff, especially if they're it can make our mental health worse. And like probably from lobectomy, volume 1, you probably know what ended up being the one thing that ended up saving my life.
Yes. So, would you say it's common practice for practitioners to give an option of the vagal nerve stimulator?
Yes, I mean, I think that needs to be talked about, and that providers need to know about it, whether they're neurologists, meaning they deal with the brain stuff that's physical, like epilepsy, migraines, autism, all that kind of stuff, or they're psychiatrists slash psychologists that deal with the mental health side, because both of them are brain, but they're in different perspectives and aspects of it, and both sides have at least one diagnosis that it's FDA approved to treat.
Right. It just makes me wonder how many of those practitioners on each side, psychologists and the neurologists, how many of them receive training about the vagal nerve stimulator?
Well, and I'm agreeing with you that there's basically, there's not many, and I agree. So I believe there does need to be some kind of that makes them aware, and that they will have some kind of incentive to make their patients aware of it.
Yes.
Because in the end, the patient is hurting. The patient and or their family,
Right.
or other people that they work with or somehow come into contact with, friendship, church, whatever, that are all the ones hurting because of that one person not having the help they need, which, like you're saying, kind of starts with us even knowing about it.
Right, because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And if you don't know it, you don't know that it's at the end of the tunnel that you can try to strive for and try to reach. Because it's dark. There's not a light at the end in that perception.
Yes.
Did I bring anything else to mind, Pat?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think, Pat, about what I shared with my books and writing being my coping method?
What do I think? I mean, I think you've given people suggestions. You didn't just say, well, you need to do this, but you actually gave them experiences from your own life of how you've dealt with things. And you know, I think it's important. I think sometimes authors will say, well, you need to do this and you need to do this, but they don't give you a how. And you actually did that.
You mean like like option of possibilities to consider as opposed to the assignments?
Well, in your one book, you talked about how you used music to deal with anxiety and some of the other issues you were having socially. And then you talked about writing down your feelings, and so you gave people options or things that they could try. You didn't just say, well, you need to find a distraction. You gave them actual actionable steps that they could take.
Okay. Well, I see what you mean now, because I gave examples that's the actionable steps I created for myself instead of just saying that they need to do that, right?
Yes.
But I think one thing I always like to hint at listeners or readers in the case of books is that it needs to be accommodated to each person. Because if someone is not interested in writing or they're not interested in music, then they need to find that coping skill that fits what's their interest, like let's say reading books, flipping through or reading magazines, spiritual stuff like with me, reading the Bible or listening to it. That's what I do on audio modern day. But still, it can be whatever is their spiritual book, Muslims and the Quran or whatever, right? But still, that those are different options that may not necessarily be what I talk about, but are things that other people can consider that's within their personal interests that could be distractions and ways to cope versus the VNS being it.
Yes.
It's something I see in the podcast. I see that as a coach because I look forward to it. I have fun doing it. But how many people who have mental illnesses don't talk about their issues? Or they don't have an incentive to do it?
Well, I think the more that, for example, on TV, 5 years ago, you rarely saw anything about mental illness. And now,
True.
I would say at least, once a day, I'll see a commercial or an app that will talk about mental illness. So I think we as a society are finally getting away from that stigma of a person has mental illness, but we don't talk about it. So I think we as a
Because it
society,
was labeled as a shame. That's pretty much what it was labeled as, and to some degree, it still is. Even though I agree with you a lot over the last, 5 years you said?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yes, I agree. I still think we have a ways to go, but we're moving in the right direction.
Definitely. The pandemic really brought it to the scenes because of how extreme it got and affecting how many or such a huge percentage of at least our population in this country, if not the entire world.
Yes, I agree. It's a shame it took a pandemic for that to happen. But if there was
and then it took that many people having to be impacted. There was such a high percentage versus those of us who for decades have already been suffering of it. We're just kind of pushed under the rug.
Yep. Yes.
Like I've personally had cases where I would be a victim of some kind of crime, and when I try to report it to a cop or call the cop to report what just happened when the whoever other person may already be gone, they would often ask me, do you have any history of mental illness? And I'd have to say yes. Okay, what's your diagnosis? Okay, so I give them, right? And then they say, well, in that case, I'm not going to. Or they say, I'm not going to file until I hear it from the other side. And I think that's why so many people with mental illnesses ended up being disabled at different points, is because they got hurt by so many more crimes because the police would just brush them aside. Oh, they're mentally ill. They don't know what they're talking about, kind of idea.
Absolutely.
Have any news to share Pat, anything going on that you want to shout to the public? Or maybe tell them who you are if they want you as their vocal artist?
I don't want to impose on your
You know I care about the girl.
What?
I said, you know I care about your girl.
Well, thank you, Jen. The feeling is mutual. Yes.
So listeners, the guest today was Pat Kennedy, who is a vocal, and where they can go to find your website if they're interested in working with you.
www.patkennedyvoiceover.com.
All right, then. Is there any phone number or email they should have?
Email is at patkennedyvoiceover.com. Pat@patkennedyvoice.com. And my website holds the contact information.
So they should probably go to a contact page on your website if they want to reach you or send you an email.
Yes, that will be fine. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook.
And here's Kurt here. And did you get to hear me talking to my vocal artist who makes all my audiobooks for me, Kurt?
I heard a little something about it. I was distracted with something else, but yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, that's who that is. She's the one that makes my audiobooks. I give her my manuscripts and she turns them into audiobooks. That's who Pat Kennedy is.
All right, I get what you're bringing out. All right, very cool.
Yeah, let her do her spill of her voiceover services.
All right, so we have somebody in the industry. This is nice.
Right.
So what's next for JAWS Mental Health Awareness? Where are we at?
Well, I was hoping we could shift to Emily for the next thing. And then
Okay.
give Pat a turn at the next thing.
Anybody have any announcements?
Pat, would you like to go first?
I'm good. I don't really have any announcements.
Are you still with us, Pat?
She doesn't really have any.
Okay, you don't have any announcements of anything going on you want other people to hear about with your business?
Not at this time. Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, then. Well, thank you for joining us. It was great to hear your voice.
Same here. I'm glad I finally
Thanks for
got to
watching.
get
If you keep watch, we'll let you be on some others with us too. You know where to find it now.
Yes. Thank you.
And definitely. Take care, girl. Look forward to working with you again soon.
Sounds good.
So, Kurt or Emily, do y'all have any announcements to go next?
There is the International Day of Happiness that is coming up March 17th. That is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific, put on by the Happy Neighborhood Project. It's $40, and there's going to be speakers, prizes, giveaways, speed networking, vendors, and so on. Also looking to break the Guinness Book of World Records. Most people speak at one time. The current record is 1,068 at the was set in 2014 by Bill. So you could be a part of a new Guinness Book of World Record if you were to join us. Also, March 18th and 19th is the Mutual Aid Network Solidarity Summit, and more information is going to be coming with that as well. Anything you'd like to add to either of those, Kurt, or anything else? Other events?
Well, I guess I will share as ambassador of the Disability Channel, showcasing abilities, television playing with people with disabilities and veterans that Emily are working on bringing out the TDC Today Show USA. And so we're hoping that that is a nice project that stands to be able to amplify what we're doing here at the Jaws Coffee Chat series and the show, the mental health awareness. So yeah, that's something that is kind of happening now, just part of today's business. And then we also are looking forward to a couple hours from now producing this show. We have the Monday Mission, and that's with Project Die Hard. And so that is a weekly show that we're glad to be able to provide. And so I think it's all akin to what we're driving at here at Jaws Mental Health Awareness. So there you go. Those are my announcements. Thanks for providing.
And I had your domains right on the screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, you do. I see projectdiehard.org. Looking good.
And then I did the disability channel.ca.
There you go. .ca, because the Disability Channel is founded, headquartered, and operated out of
In
Toronto, Canada. Yep, makes me think of maple leaves all of a sudden.
Right? Totally. And then over to myself, Jennifer Whitaker. Our announcements include here, I'm going to put on everybody's screen. Aspire Women for Instance now has their website at www.awe.wixsite. That's www.awe.wixsite.com. And that is where you'll find Aspire Women for Excellence Bible study, networking, planning and goaling events, and anything from that to fellowship groups and so forth that are all online and are led by Lady Kendra. That's also where you'll find me, Jennifer Whitaker, as far as doing my faith studies, Bible studies, and other things like that, networking with other female Christian entrepreneurs and so much more. There's also where you can find more information about me, my books, this podcast, other podcast episodes of past we have done, or information on my writing, editing, and publishing services or marketing services of books, so forth, at www.jensbooksandmore.com, www.jensbooksandmore.com. If you know anybody or you yourself are interested in being our social media candidate or a virtual assistant or even a public relations person via contract with a percentage of our royalties and profits as your compensation, then you can go to calendly.com/Jens Books and More to schedule a appointment with the team to interview you for any of those 3 positions, and that's a public relations person who could get us press releases and so forth, as well as doing blog posts and other forms of writing related work that's behind the scenes, as well as a virtual assistant and a public relations virtual assistant and social media marketer. Those are the 3. But all of those positions, if you're interested in being considered in compensation as a royalty and profit share form of compensation, that's CALENDY.com/JENNS books and more. And that's where you can schedule with myself, with possibly Emily or Kurt being there as well, to consider you for the position for a group decision. And for the rest of you, we want to ask that you will follow us on social media or the podcast app, wherever you found us, because this is Jaws Coffee Chat, JAWS Coffee Chat. That's the name of this podcast. The channel, regular show is Jaws Mental Health Awareness, where we have, I think now 4 or 5 different shows all on Jaws Coffee Chat. Over to
I'd like to also encourage everybody to check out our LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, so on. And like, share, subscribe, comment. For any questions, comments, concerns to be on the show, contact us at jawscoffeechat@gmail.com. It's jawscoffeechat@gmail.com. Again, thank you to Pat and Kurt and everybody else who tuned in today. We are here every Monday at the same time, 2:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 Eastern. I'd love to see anybody who is interested in coming on. And again, special thanks to Marcus, Jay, and Zach for allowing us to be on their platforms. And on behalf of Jen, John, Kurt, myself, and the rest of the World of Ability Podcast Network, I wish you a safe and productive week and to stay happy.